Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Menu Monday and our fourth Crocktober, all month long, every Monday, slow cooker meals. Down in the description box below, I have linked the last three, so all of them are down there, and then this one is the fourth and final. But don't worry, I have more slow cooker meals coming because I'm still making them because I love them in the fall. So without further ado, let's get to cooking. And don't forget, you don't have to write anything down or try to follow. There's a link in the description box that goes to my blog, and all the recipes are there with the descriptions and the ingredients. I'll see you at the end. Today in the slow cooker, we're making Salisbury steak. The first thing we're going to do is to mix our 2 pounds of hamburger with half of the package of onion soup mix, some breadcrumbs, an egg, and we're going to form these into patties. Mine made 6, but I really think it depends on how big you make them, and that's up to you. The next thing we're going to do is brown our patties in a skillet. Now, I used the slow cooker. I have one that you can use. It's got multi-functions, so you can use it as a skillet. But if you don't, then just do it in the skillet. And then what we're going to do is put our onions and mushrooms in the bottom of the slow cooker. So I took my patties out and then put the onions in. I didn't use mushrooms because my husband doesn't care for them, but I had a jar of mushrooms I was going to put on mine at the end, and then I forgot. But the flavor was awesome anyway. Since I'm using the Crockpot as a skillet, I'm going to go ahead and get a lot of the grease that came out of the beef out of the slow cooker. But I did leave some of the little odds and ends in there for flavor. Now we're going to set all the patties on top of the onions and mushrooms if you're using those. We're going to mix the beef broth with the rest of the package of soup mix, and then we're going to pour that over the patties. Now this can be cooked on low 5 to 6 hours or high for 3. Now our time is up. I'm going to go ahead and remove the patties, and we're going to thicken the gravy with a cornstarch slurry. And that's 2 tablespoons cornstarch, 2 tablespoons of water, and then I just turned it up. You can put it on high if you have the regular slow cooker, and thicken it. Now I enjoyed the fact that it thickened. I wasn't keen on the color, so I put a can of brown gravy in mine to bring it to a more brown consistency, or color rather. And then I put my patties back in there, just let them sit for a few minutes, and I served mine with mashed potatoes, peas, and carrots. It made a fantastic dinner. The flavor was incredible, and I highly suggest trying it. Next up is our chicken fajitas. For the chicken fajitas, I'm going to cut up the bell peppers and the onions. I am not a fan of a lot of juice on my fajitas or the chicken when you do it in the slow cooker, because then it makes your fajitas soggy. So I don't use any liquid on mine. I put the peppers and onions in there. I put the chicken on top, which makes some juice, and then I just sprinkle the fajita seasoning over the top. This can be cooked on low for 6 hours or high for 3. And then you just shred your chicken up and serve it with your tortillas, and you use the toppings of choice. Now, in the description box below, there's a link that goes to my blog, and it has all the recipe, ingredients, and directions. And I have suggested some toppings, but of course everybody likes something different, so you use the toppings that you enjoy. As you can see, there's still liquid in here, even though I didn't put any in. So it's not going to be dry. It's very flavorful, and it's wonderful in tortillas. Of course, you could do it on tacos too. Here are our finished plates. Now we're going to make the beef and broccoli. There are your ingredients. I love this beef and broccoli. I've made it in the skillet. I've done it several different ways. However, I wasn't a fan of the flavor of these ingredients. It calls for beef broth, soy sauce, brown sugar, a little garlic. And then, of course, you thicken it with the cornstarch slurry. Now, it was tender, and it was, the broccoli was beautiful. You put that in at the end of the cook time. But it just didn't have that punch of flavor that I like from beef and broccoli. But I decided to keep it in here because it is a beautiful dinner. It pictures well. But I put in the blog, I put the ingredients that I use for this recipe that's in the video. And then I put my favorite combinations of flavors. And that is ketchup, honey, teriyaki sauce, and some soy sauce and cornstarch. And I do it just a little bit different, and I put those directions in that blog too. Here are our finished plates, and we served it with everything but the salt. For the pork carnitas, you need a 3 to 4 pound pork shoulder. And now I'm going to make up the rub, which consists of cumin, chili powder, oregano, and garlic powder. Now, I doubled the rub, because my pork, it wasn't 3 to 4 pounds. I ordered it from Walmart, online, and it was 9.5 pounds. It was huge. So I knew, number one, it was going to take way longer to cook, and I knew it would take way more ingredients. So I do have the original recipe on the blog, so all the original ingredients are there. So if you end up wanting to make a big one like this, you can double it also. Otherwise, stick with what's on the blog. Here it is. It was massive. I ended up we had our bowl. We did bowls. We did pork carnita bowls. And then I had 4 containers, probably the 5-inch, maybe square containers, metal pans in the freezer full of this pork carnita meat. And it is fantastic. Very, very flavorful. Absolutely delicious. And I'm so glad I got lots left over. So we put the rub on. We're going to put the onions in the bottom of the slow cooker, and then we're going to put the pork on top. Now that we have that in place, we're going to pour over some orange juice and some lime juice. Then we cover this and cook it on low, 8 to 10 hours, or high for 5. I cooked mine for 12 hours overnight, knowing that it probably wouldn't be done in the morning. And it wasn't. It was at 115, 120 degrees, I think. So I put it on for another 6 hours. And after that, it was deliciously tender and shredded wonderfully. I did broil mine under the broiler for a few minutes just to crisp up the top. That's something I do with any sort of pork. I love it that way. And then for the bowls, what we did a base of rice, and then we put the pork on top, and then we did black beans, shredded lettuce, tomatoes, sour cream, I believe, but any toppings you enjoy. And here is finished plates. This chicken parmesan is so simple. You're going to love this. You put the chicken in the crock pot, you pour a 24-ounce jar of marinara sauce on the top and sprinkle Italian seasoning on it. You cook it for 6 hours on low, or you can do 3 hours on high. Again, with chicken, it doesn't always take that long, so be sure to check it halfway through to see how it's doing. And then once that time is up, we're going to top it with some mozzarella and Parmesan for the last 15 minutes. And while that's cooking for the 15 minutes, you make your spaghetti. Ready to go. Such a simple dinner. Definitely going on my rotation for an easy day. Here are our finished plates. I hope you give this one a try. I served it with some garlic toast. I hope you enjoyed this week's meals. Like I said, the beef and broccoli, I don't generally put them in here if I'm not 100% fan of them, but I do have a favorite beef and broccoli. That's why I went ahead and put that in there, because it still looked good. It still tasted good. It didn't taste as good as the one with the teriyaki sauce. Now, I usually use the P.F. Chang's, the thick teriyaki sauce, but if you have a favorite, you can try it that way too. All right, guys, I love you. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you on Friday. Bye, guys.